Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. We made a video on the weekend talking about where are the new Squadron vehicles, and it turns out the prayers have been answered. There is a devblog for the next major update. It is for a new Squadron vehicle, the F-5E FCU. This is going to be a new jet fighter, which is coming in for Japan at rank 7, and if you've ever played the F-5s, you know how powerful they are. This is the third nation which is going to have them in War Thunder after America and also China. All of them feel very nice to play, and most recently should have gone up in BR, but it was decided they wouldn't. This one is slightly different from the others. This one specifically has access to Python 3s and also AIM-9P4s, so we'll have to see how it goes around. Let's have a look at the history of this vehicle. The Royal Thai Air Force received the first F-5 series aircraft in the late 1960s during the Vietnam War, where the resulting aircraft were equipped purely as attack aircraft. The country began receiving more advanced F-5Es in the late 70s. In 1988, the modernization of part of the F-5E fleet began. They received a hood, a new sight with a ballistic computer, countermeasures, an RWR, and the ability to install Python 3 missiles. Even though the Royal Thai Air Force have begun using F-16 fighters, the F-5 series of aircraft remain in service to this day. So you may be wondering why this Thai vehicle is being added to the Japanese tech tree. What is interesting is they've actually left a developer comment on the devblog as to why. It says, we're adding the Thai F-5E FCU to Japan as a squadron vehicle to help bolster this air tree with an interesting option. As Japan has very limited domestic modern jet aircraft to add, in addition to air battles, this aircraft will also be useful in ground battles, thanks to its ordnance options, overall helping Japan's ground forces lineup. The F-5 is a popular aircraft in War Thunder that many of you are familiar with, and Thailand is geographically quite close to Japan, with both having good modern relations. So there you go. There are several reasons why they've added this aircraft to Japan, but the main one, of course, which always stands out in these situations, is balance, and balance is always the one that should be looked at instead of all the other justifications that they use in order to add this stuff in. The reason why they're adding this aircraft to the Japanese tech tree is that first part, the fact that they don't have anything else to add in this area. Please don't listen to the rest of it and the justifications. All of that goes very much secondary to that primary thing. So, you have an F-5E, but this F-5E is different from the other F-5Es. The main difference, at least from an air-to-air perspective, is it gets access to Python 3s and also AIM-9Ps. Now, for me, I'm not actually a huge fan of the AIM-9P. Specifically, this one's the AIM-9P4, though, so maybe it might be different from the standard AIM-9P, but I've always felt like the AIM-9P is way too short range compared to a lot of the other missiles of the Sidewinder series. I've always much preferred stuff like the AIM-9D and the AIM-9G and the AIM-9H compared to the AIM-9J and the AIM-9P. The AIM-9P, I believe, is the export version of the J, which is why they're basically the same. The short-range idea isn't very fun, at least for me, and what they're also adding, though, is a Python 3. Now, this one is an Israeli missile and is very powerful. It has a very, very good seeker on it and also can turn very aggressively in the game. You can already see it in some examples already, so this one is going to come in with some pretty fantastic missiles, and that means that whatever BR it's at, it will always at least have the ability to get some kills. They are giving it some countermeasures with 45 on offer, and also a radar and an RWR, pretty standard stuff. Would have been nice to see this thing on the dev server, just to see the differences between it and other things, but also it kind of makes sense why the AIM-9P4 was in the files, because that was, what this thing was going to get. It also has access to AGM-65Bs and rockets and standard bombs, which will be quite nice, including assault and also incendiary bombs, which will be around the place. Mighty Mouse rockets and Zunis will also be on the vehicle too. It also has a ballistic computer on it, thanks to a TIE modernization program, so that also improves the vehicle overall. It has the 20mm still, they haven't ripped those out, which is really cool, and at the same time, it does have access to the 30mm GAU-13A gun pod. So this one will be incredibly similar to the F-5E, and as a person who has played the F-5E, it is very powerful as a machine. The only difference between this one and that F-5E is mainly going to be its ordnance options, which is pretty big, but it also means that you'll be at a higher BR with better ordnance, which you'll have to get the modifications for. So the stock grind for this vehicle will probably be a lot harder than the other F5s, at least in the Chinese and the American tech tree. Both sets of F5s in those areas are really fun to play, and there's a reason why they were going to put them up in BR recently, because they're incredibly powerful. They are some of the best dogfighters in the game, they don't rip apart. Once you get the crew skills on it, and once you get the modifications, you pretty much feel unstoppable in it. The guns are really nice, and you get a decent amount of ammunition, and also the missiles, even though they're not the most powerful on the other versions of the F5, mean that you can at least close distance and close gaps and annihilate stuff. What'll be interesting about this F5, though, is since it does get better ordnance, they will definitely put it at a higher BR. And that'll mean either 11.0 or 11.3, 11.7. My guess would be 11.3 or 11.7, just based on the Python 3s themselves. It still only should be able to carry 2 Python 3s though, because of the way that the general wings are set up, but at the same time, with some of the pictures that it shows, it can carry what looks like 2 Sidewinders and also 2 Python 3s at the same time. So you'll be able to carry both of them, meaning that you'll have 4 missiles in total, which will be actually quite nice. A lot better than many of the other F5s, which are struggling to have more than 2 missiles at a time in the air superiority role. So from that point of view, that'll be really good. We'll have to see how the radar is, but it won't really matter too much because, that won't be its main staying point. The RWR, I'm sure, will be incredibly good since it's such a modern vehicle. And I also understand there's going to be a lot of talk about should this thing be in Japan, should this not be in Japan. Just understand this. Whenever they actually have what would be seen as devlogs which are controversial, they wait right until the update comes out to be able to release them. You may remember the 2S38 devlog, which came out literally an hour before the announcement that they were going to bring in the new update. They're doing exactly the same thing as this. I know there's going to be a lot of people who are unhappy with this because of some kind of idea, whether it's a nationalistic idea or whether it is a gameplay idea or whatever else it is. And it would be lovely to hear general opinions on this stuff. For me, what matters the most is the Japanese tech tree being fun. And one of the issues that the Japanese tech tree has had is its jets have huge gaps in their areas, and that makes it pretty unfun to play. Just like stuff like the Italians, which is why they've added the Hungarians to it, to make it a little bit more fun as well. It's nice to see more Thai vehicles in the game. Thailand has a very interesting military, not just from the air perspective, but also from the ground perspective. And to see more and more of their vehicles in, with some pretty cool camos, and hopefully some more voice lines, and all of that good stuff, it would be fantastic to see. As always, hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd like to thank Schnitzel Stroker, Brendan Quinn, Vilneus, Character Fuel, Carrion Crow, Nicholas Richardson, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Wartinder, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, B. Young, Opium Prime, Masonocrat, Lafouche, Alan Hacker, Sem Arslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R. for supporting the channel.